I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yes. Welcome. And for those who are watching us for a number of times, or just multiple times watching us, welcome back. This is the AfterBuzz TV White Line After Show. My name is Rob. I'm going to be your host this evening, but I'm not alone. I have a fantastic co-host. Her name is Allie. How you doing, Allie? How we doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Excited to talk about the show.
Yes, I am excited to talk about the show as well. We have a lot to unpack. Once again, I know I've said this in previous episodes, drama on top of drama on top of drama, and that's what we got going on here. But before we get into that, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Once again, thank you for making us the ESPN of After Talk, excuse me, the ESPN of TV Talk. Sorry about that. And if you haven't watched this, please turn it off because we are going to spoil the pure hell out of this. So once again, if you haven't watched this, we would like for you to turn this off. And I'll even do a countdown real quick for you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoilers are about to happen. So let's get into it. I have a couple points that I wrote down here for us to talk about here, and I'll just go through them real quick before we get into it. So number one, we have a boat with bodies and cocaine in it. Yes, a boat with bodies and cocaine in it. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not making this up. A boat with bodies and cocaine in it. Remember that. It's coming back to us, coming back to you later on. Number two, we have Kika's rise. This episode, we see Kika, not ask for a seat at the table, but pull out the seat at the table herself and sit down in it and jump in the business. And I don't think it's going to end here. And it kind of doesn't. That's why I'm calling this Kika's rise. The third and final bombshell that we have is Zoe and Boxer's bonding exercise. I've seen some bonding exercises in my life, but burying, we'll cover that later on. Just know right now we had a crazy bonding exercise. So, initial thoughts, Allie. What were your initial thoughts on this episode?
I had a lot of thoughts. I feel like there wasn't just one overall thought that stuck with me the whole show. I was going back and forth between being shocked and surprised to then like loving it and to hating it. Like my thoughts were kind of just everywhere, but we learned a lot and we're learning a lot about Axel. And I think that's why I had a little bit of an issue with this episode was because all of the thoughts that I have previously had for Axel in all of the before episodes kind of completely like 360'd in this one. And Axel is not who we thought he was. I mean, we knew he was a little bit of a partier and he had this wild side, but he's a lot more troubled than the show let on before. So I was just mostly taken aback by that, but I liked the episode overall. I mean, we learned a lot. I loved seeing Boxer and Zoe bond. I thought that scene was just crazy. I can't say I've ever seen anything quite like that. Maybe you have in other shows or movies, but I was like weirdly here for that whole scene. But yeah.
Well, I was here for everything because, not everything, but all of the crazy stuff. You know me, I like crazy stuff happening. I love the drama on drama on drama, because it's cool to have that inside of when you have more webs, and more directions you can go, more entertainment, and more of a ride. And that's what I was here for. But number one, like just seeing. Once again, I said it last episode of our after show. Zoe is turning into a completely different person. Like we are seeing a whole new side of Zoe, and it's continuing to go on. And I think it will into the last episode. There's no telling what Zoe's gonna do. She's like the real wild card. And this is, we get to see in the flashbacks, in this episode that Axel was a wild card too. Axel was an anything goes kind of dude, anything, any parties, any drugs, any fights, any challenges. He was always there for it. He he loves the terror, and it's crazy. You get to see that it runs in the family because Zoe's doing the same thing. And then
Definitely.
uh Kika, I know Kika coming in and showing her teeth, demanding, respect and just like knowledge of what's happening in the household. And I was there for it because I predicted that she was going to do this, and she did it. And I love the way it was executed. It wasn't too crazy. It wasn't too over the top. It was just like, okay, I want to be in on what's happening. I did this and that. I came here to help. And then also, father had told me that he wanted me to take over his spot. Okay, so why are you doing these things without me? You can't just ask me to take over your place, take your place, and then not include me in the family's business. Not even invite me to the meeting. I hear
Mhm.
about it 5 minutes before everybody's showing up. So of course that would turn me off if I were Kiko. And
Mhm.
once again, Zoe and Boxer's bonding exercise is still so crazy. I don't even want to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this, and I know it's cliche for somebody to say I've never seen anything like that, but this I've never
I have
seen a shit
not.
like this.
Yeah, I have
Like I was just
not.
like, what? I even wrote down like with question marks, like, okay,
Yeah.
what is happening? Okay,
Right.
so we're gonna get into that in a second, but let's talk about a couple things. The open, and you know, uh, this is without going into it too much, but the first thing that we see whenever this episode comes on, the first thing that we see is a boat being pulled by Zoe. But also, let's talk about what we see inside of that boat. We see feet, and
Mhm.
not feet of a live person, decaying feet, rigor mortis, hanging from underneath a tarp. And I remember I wanted to pause for a second, like, wait a minute, is this really happening? And then like, okay, no, it is really happening. And they stay with it for just a moment, and then they cut and go to the next part. But Allie, what was your take on seeing the initial boat being pulled with feet in it?
Yeah, when I did the same exact thing as you. I was just like, did I just see that correctly? But then I remembered, oh yes, this is the type of show we're watching. So I'm
Hmm.
sure it's everything bad and everything that we could possibly imagine. So, but when we found out later what it was, and that we found out it was the Romanians, I was like, Zoe loves Boxer. That's all I could think about because she went under the sea to get these bodies out of the water to
Hmm.
protect him. I mean, I don't think I could even do that for someone I love. I just don't think I could stomach it. I would try my best, but she literally did that to protect him and went driving into town with these bodies and cocaine on the boat. And I'm like, she loves Boxer. Like, that's just all there is to it. And that to me was all I could think about, but also just how crazy um, and brave she is. Like, she rarely shows us that side of her, but every now and again we see her just do something that completely shocks us and we're like, "Oh yeah, she is a badass." Like I would see maybe Boxer doing that. I don't even think I could see Marcus going down there and pulling up those bodies. Like that just took some type of person to be able to do that. So yeah, I was shocked at Zoe. I don't know. I was glad she did it because it kept Boxer out of trouble.
Yes, it did, and we got to see some of these incredible guts that Zoe has. But we'll get back to that in a minute because that scene was crucial too. That was crazy when all that was happening. But so the next bulletin I have is that a bullet point I have is that Zoe and Mike have a not so comfortable video chat. That I think they almost broke up with that chat. I think that was the first shots of the war. And speaking from experience, like when your significant other talks to you in that way, it's getting ready to go down. The plane is getting ready to crash into the mountain. That's what's
Mhm.
getting ready to happen. But you can see, the whole Mike realizing that he may lose his wife to Ibiza, and you also get to see Zoe seeing herself not so afraid to lose Mike possibly. She's like, you can see her exploring these options, even
Mhm.
just the way with the way that she's speaking to him. And like I was saying, in my point, I thought it was a not so comfortable video chat. I wouldn't wish that on anybody either. And Allie, what did you think about the whole video chat?
I agree. It was super uncomfortable. We also saw, oh, what's her name? Jenny, I think. We finally got to see her daughter. I
Yes,
don't think we've seen her yet,
we
but for
haven't.
some reason, I was imagining like a little girl. The whole time I was just imagining a little child. So when I saw that her daughter was older, um, it made more sense because Zoe has been in Ibiza and like off on this adventure. And I always kind of wondered like how she could do this as a mom with like a little girl at home. But Jenny's older. So that kind of like finally answered a few questions I had about that. But yeah, the whole situation with Mike, I it's uncomfortable because I feel for Mike because you can just tell he is not getting like straightforward answers. Like Zoe is just kind of walking on eggshells. She's not being upfront with him. She's just kind of saying what she has to say in that moment to kind of get him off the phone. And she's always like, I have to go. Like, I'll call you later. And so I felt uncomfortable for him because he's probably just so confused. But also, you can tell that he almost doesn't want to know. Like, he doesn't ask
Hmm.
hard questions. He kind of lets her just fly right on by with all of her excuses and whatnot. So yeah, it's uncomfortable because we know how it's gonna end, like turn out. We know there's probably gonna be this like big scene where she tells him like what she's been up to, and so every time Mike's involved, I just feel on edge, of course, because Zoe's on edge. You can tell Mike's on edge. We're all just on edge.
Yes, and I'm happy that Mike didn't ask any hard questions because I know
No,
he's not ready for hard answers. So
true.
I'm glad that he
That's
didn't.
true.
But there's one thing that I should have talked about in the opening topics that we were going to talk about was a crazy plot twist. And the plot twist of the week is Zoe's dad still being in Ibiza.
Oh, right.
And like not just still being in Ibiza, but like he's doing his detective thing or a cop thing in Ibiza. He's watching over the daughter and trying to get clues about the case. And he's actually made friends with Juan Manuel Fonseca, which I said that last episode. And I said Antonio, which was wrong. I thought because I thought the name was Juan Antonio, but it was Juan Manuel, but I just called him Antonio. But
Oh,
it's actually Juan Manuel Fonseca. And so,
okay.
yeah, he was the investigator that couldn't find any, couldn't make any headway until recently. And yeah, the father, we get a good scene with the father there with him. But that, I honestly thought that he was leaving. I thought that he was leaving, and I feel a little dumb that I didn't catch
I
that he
know.
was staying.
Too.
Because I mean, I don't know the way he was leaving, saying, and that's the way they cut from he's on the phone. Hey, she's stubborn as a mule. That one. Then we cut, and so you already think she's leaving the country. He's leaving the country, but
Right.
in this episode, we see him. What were you thinking when he popped up again, Ellie?
I also felt dumb because our last episode I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy like the dad left and Zoe's
Hmm.
about to like be able to find herself," and it just felt like this fresh start. And then we see that he didn't leave and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, what the heck?" But I think at first I was a little annoyed because I was just kind of like, I almost feel for Zoe like, you don't want your parents around when you're like going through this like big life change and she's like having this affair and like having fun for once in her life and like her dad just knowing that her dad's on the island, it kind of takes away I guess a little bit.
Hmm.
So when I saw him at first I was like, wow, really? Okay. um but and I'm sure we'll get to it, but towards the end I was happy that he stayed because
Hmm.
she's just finding out so much about Axel, and they're kind of like all each other has. Like she
Right.
doesn't have her mom, and that's his only child now. And so towards the end, I was a little bit more grateful that he did stay.
Right. Yeah, I'm on the same sheet of music with you as well, because she still needs someone else outside of this whole situation looking from her because whether she's romantically linked with Boxer or not, Boxer is still linked to the family,
Mhm.
and th- he is, regardless of that. And I think his allegiance is going to always stay with the family, no matter how much he likes and or loves, or is and or possibly in love with Zoe. He's still going to have that allegiance to the family. I believe, at least. But now that you brought up Alex being a certain Axel, I keep calling him Alex.
It's hard,
Uh,
I know.
you
The
brought
names
up
are weird.
Axel being not such a good guy, and we get a crazy important flashback, and then a series of other flashbacks, which I thought was done rather creatively through pictures. But I'll explain that, and we'll get to that in just a second. But let's talk about well, matter of fact, let's get them all together in one. So we have David has old pictures of Marcus, and Axel at the party, which he plays, the slideshow for Zoe. And then we get good flashbacks with the party with Axel and Oriol and everybody, David in the party as well. And so we get to see that Axel is a little bit of a douche. He's a little
Mhm.
bit of a douche. And you ladies were
He's
saying it last
definitely a
show.
douche.
You ladies were saying it last show, like, hey, this guy is, we you guys said that you're not fond of him as much. And after seeing this episode, this dude was a wild man, at a party. Uh, he gets Oriole to admit to burning down his club, and he admits to the whole thing with the mom and the sister, the daughter. And then um, Axel challenges him. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to give you a challenge, and then this is going to be our challenge, and then we'll be done with it." And then what does Axel do? Oriole challenges Axel to pull out one of his teeth, and Axel's crazy ass does it. I would never done it. And for me, when I was watching, I was like kind of looking away,
Yeah.
rubbing my fingers together like this, like, okay, with my thumb and pointer together, just like with anxiety. Because the sound design and then the blood and the way they cut, it was just like, I thought about The Hangover, but like in a more creepy, dark way. How are you
Yeah.
feeling about all this happening?
I
How did you
literally
thought?
got off the couch and had to walk away, and I just, like, went and put my dishes in the sink for that whole part, that whole, like, section of all the photos. Um, I can, like, watch some gory stuff. I can usually stomach a little bit, but that for me was just a definite hard pass. That was disgusting. Yeah, like what you're doing right now, that was me the whole time. I was just like,
Yeah,
"Are my
I'm
teeth
thinking about it.
okay?"
While you're talking about it, I'm thinking about it. I was like,
Yeah.
man,
I'm
that's
like, "I'm gonna go brush my teeth, like, make sure we're good." Oh, that was disgusting. The way they shot it was, like you just said, it was just hard to watch, and I I don't, like, relate to him anymore. Like, I feel like the other episodes we, like, felt empathy for him and, sympathy for Zoe, and now I'm like, this guy isn't just a partier. He's not just having fun anymore. Like, he is actually, like, in a very unhealthy mental state, I think. Like, I don't think he, um was healthy. I mean, he's on all of these drugs and he's doing crazy things and he's sleeping with anyone he can. And I think everybody has like great things to say about him for most of the episodes. And so I was just really confused now that we're finally seeing the type of person he really was. I don't know how they stuck up for him so long. I don't know how they're not mad at Zoe because of his behavior. Like everyone's so nice to Zoe and I know she did nothing wrong, of course, but yeah, I was just really shocked by his behavior and finding out who he really was. It was sad and gross to watch.
yes. And you see somebody spiraling out of control because of pain and pain through the loss of the mother. That
Yes.
will make some people spiral down, different roads. And this is one. And then I imagine the household that he was in was unhealthy because from the relationship with the father and him and then the sister. So yes, I could see him totally running off, turning into, a bit of a douchebag. But it's like, like Star Wars, before Anakin turned to Vader. He was nice, and then he got to like right before Vader, and he was like complete crazy, and then Vader was like the final form. So I
Oh
mean
dang. I've only seen the new ones. I'm so
okay.
sorry. I just
No,
exposed myself.
it's okay. It's okay. Um, yeah, but moving along, let's talk about Kika because that's one of the points. Kika, her rise begins. And so I spoke about a little bit earlier where she came in and she took her seat at the table. She didn't ask for it. She took it and she came in and immediately started getting into the business dealings and learning what's going on. For example, she didn't know why would you pay a certain price for something? And they explained to her because it's for purposes of profit. And then it was explained to her how much the item really cost and how much they were selling it for. And then just even little more, a few more things about the tidbits of the business, and then also you see a little bit of a power struggle with the brother, because she's outside and she wants in, and the brother's just doing his thing because he's been there for years. And ultimately, Kika's sternness with taking the seat at the table and learning more about the business and calling the father out in front of everybody, it makes the father decide again, and actually really decide this time, that hey, I am going to retire and the company will be split between you and Oriol. And it was what Kika wanted. Kika pulled the chair at the table, took her seat at the table, and the father moved out of the way. And I was for all of that. I liked it because I like seeing, characters like that to come in and just, they take they take what they want. They take that she had what she wanted and she took it. And I think it was for the better because Andreu is not in any position to be running the business still. But Ali, what did you think about the whole thing with Kika coming in and then everything with the brother and then the father finally retiring and giving it to her and Oreo?
I totally agree with everything you said. I loved seeing her just kind of like strong woman empowerment mode and just go in and demand. But she just kind of took over the entire room. I will say, I it was I kind of expected her to do that. I thought after her dad's accident, she was going to go and kind of try to take back that CEO spot of the company. But again, she did tell her father she didn't want it.
Right.
So I wasn't too surprised to see them like all having a meeting without her, just because I feel like the dad was like, okay, she doesn't want to be a part of this. So I don't think that he did it on purpose, but I loved seeing her just walk in anyway and be like, change of plans, actually. Yeah, we're going to have to address that offer because I want it. And
Right.
then seeing Oriole and her kind of, because Oreo has been preparing to be the CEO of this company. He does know more about the business. But I do think Kika, I mean, I think now that her dad is at least able to communicate, and now that he knows that she wants this, he can kind of train her a little bit and tell her
Right.
what's up. Like she's not just going to walk in and already know how the complete business works. But yeah, I
Mhm.
loved that scene, and I'm really happy that um, that she is going to be a part of that business now because I think it definitely needs her.
Yes, and once again, like I think Kika has a mean streak in her waiting to happen, and I think that she's going. I think she's yeah. I see some revenge coming from her because I see a little Conchita in here. There's more Andreu in her, but there's still some Conchita in there.
Um,
So we don't know what we can say. She's capable of anything. I think if she gets really,
Man, she's
really
my
pissed.
favorite right now too. I really like her.
Yeah,
So I
I
hope
like
she
her a lot too.
doesn't pull a Conchita on us.
Nah, but it'll be Conchita 2.0. So I want to see,
Just
I
a
think
little
it'll
bit fiery.
right. I really hope I get to see that. So the next
Yeah.
thing that I think we should probably talk about here is um Zoe. You talked about it earlier with Zoe diving to and getting the bodies, but let's talk about how she got there. Okay. So she goes to dive, and the reason why she goes to dive is because prior to diving, um, Marcus is kicked out of his house, and when he is kicked out of his house, he speaks with someone on the phone, and basically they were telling him like the whole rules and everything with being kicked out and all of that. But what he does, he talks to Zoe after that, and he manipulates her into going to get diving to go get the keys of cocaine. But the whole thing with the bodies, that's a whole nother separate thing because she saw those and then put two and two together and did that to save, Boxer. But initially she was going in there to get the cocaine. And once she got the cocaine, then we start to see bodies. And not only do we start to see bodies, we get to see these bodies floating. And at the same time, the police are overhead speaking with Marcus because they're clearing that whole bay for the festival that they're having. And it's crazy. It makes me think of like those old spy movies where you got a spy, you got people on the trails of the spy, and the spy forgets one thing and he like looks around to see if he can go back and get something, but the people on the trail, and it's just all this tension. And way more tension than I expected with this whole thing, and also way a whole new level of the braveness that Zoe has. So what do you think about that whole sequence of events there, Allie?
um, well, okay, overall, I thought all of those scenes, like the sequences of the scenes, were really funny. I'll get to
Yeah.
that a little bit in a minute, but even though it sounds like, it should have been so serious and scary, and there was definitely that tension, but for some reason, whenever Marcus is in a scene, there's like this sense of humor that comes along with it. Like I just can't take him completely seriously for
Right.
some reason. Um, yeah, but like he also was smoking, and I feel like he's been on morphine and stuff because of his leg. So I never know if he's just like buzzed, or if he's just, acting that way because he's on drugs or medicine, or if he's just that way. I don't know. But
Right.
either way, I love it. But I hated how, even though he's funny and I like his scenes, I did not like how he manipulated um, Zoe to go do that, because and he's done this before and he keeps blaming her and guilting her when it's like, the type of person she is, and she's going to feel bad and she's going to
Mhm.
believe what you're saying. Um, and I think she would have done it anyway. I think all he had to say was, look, this could really affect me in this way. If he maybe just, I don't know, tried being a little bit more understanding, but instead he just was like, this is your fault. Like, all of this is your fault. And it's like, no, it's really not. You're the one that got yourself into this whole cocaine business when I mean, nothing good usually comes from that. So I didn't like how he blamed her for it. But anyway, she still decides to go along with him. And yeah, for some reason, I just thought the scene was so funny. But she went down there, got the cocaine, and then saw the dead body. And I was just like, oh no. Um, and then the cops are up there. So it was just definitely a very tense scene, very dramatic, and I did not expect her to go back down and bring up the bodies. Again, like
No.
that, the fact that she did that just spoke uh just enormously on how much she did that for Boxer. I mean, she could have easily have just left it. I don't know. It was an intense scene for sure. But my favorite part was them driving, when they finally get the body on the boat and they have two dead bodies and the cocaine, and they're on the boat just driving through the town.
Yes.
That that was hilarious. I was laughing, even though it was super scary, but I thought it was
Yes.
so funny. Oh my goodness.
And then they had to drive through a freaking parade. That's the crazy part. Like they're already driving through town with cocaine and bodies in the boat, halfway exposed. They didn't even like secure like the tarp down on top of the boat to keep it. That's what I would have did. I would have
I
made sure it was
know.
secure so no dogs could smell anything or whatever. Like, come on.
I wondered the
But
same thing. Why wouldn't they put at least the cocaine in the car?
yes,
If they maybe couldn't get the bodies, but they could have brought some of that like in the actual vehicle, not just like out in an open. Yeah.
exactly. And then you get the kids hanging out. Some of the kids jump in the back of the boat with and start playing around, and then it ultimately causes Marcus to like hurt his leg, and that looked excruciating.
Yeah.
Uh,
That. Oh my goodness.
but we didn't even stay with him long enough, because we stayed with Zoe because Zoe got the hell out of there and like drove
Hmm.
away with the cocaine and stuff. But
Yeah.
um, there's one thing that happened in that scene too, because we see Zoe leave, but we also since okay, so just to give a better picture of it, as Zoe and Marcus are driving through the streets, they go through a parade, which has, which for some reason, I guess law of attraction, has the family in it. And inside, inside that you have not just um, not just Andreu, but you have Oriol, you have Kika, you have Boxer, and Conchita, and the priest. We can't forget about the priest in the window with the whole
Oh my
masturbation thing.
gosh.
But you have this moment there, well, a couple moments. Number one, you have Boxer calling out Kika on her, on what she does, which is, you know, she likes to run when things get tough because she's not made for that. But now it's time for her to embrace, that she could be made for that. Let's at least try to see if you are made of that, Kika. And Boxer calls out. Boxer's been calling people out on this show like crazy since day one. And then
True.
you get to see from Kika getting called out to being the one doing the calling out. Because she goes and calls out who? Oriol. She calls out Oriol for him and his mother's weird ass relationship. She said it right there. You have something weird going on with mom. And I was sitting here like, yes, he does have something weird. I've been saying this. I said it since the first episode. Like, there's some weird stuff going on. What did you think about all of that, Allie?
I loved her when she said that. I was like, please address this. Like, please. The mom went all, on this truth spree. I don't know what to call it, but was just sharing all of her secrets last episode. And I was still waiting for this, her secrets on what her relationship is with her son. It's so weird. But yeah, I loved that Kika said that. I feel like she's a very tells it how it is, and nothing holds her back. But again, it's also very easy for her to just run away.
Mhm.
And I do think I appreciate Boxer for kind of putting people in their place. Like, we've seen him call out Zoe so many times, and she needed it. And I don't know, I
Yeah.
just feel like Boxer is like just low key this show's like psychiatrist or something, because he just has all this built up wisdom and then always goes and shares it with everyone. But I don't know, I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I love it. I really I'm glad there's bunch of calling out. I'm so glad that somebody called out Oriol and Conchita's weird ass relationship because
Mhm.
that is it's weird for me. There's some weird ancestral vibes going on there.
Definitely.
And hopefully now they'll be snuffed out a little bit due to, the newfound family dynamic and love between mother and father. But I don't
True.
know about that. Let's see what happens. He is in a
Yeah,
wheelchair, so it's a different
I
ballgame.
know.
Um, so one last thing. Oh, so one more thing before we move to the last big bomb of the night, was Kika finding out that Pepe possibly had something to do with her father being in a wheelchair. The rage I saw on Kika's face, that's what makes me think she's gonna get some blood. The claws, I think,
Mm.
are going to come out. And Allie, I don't know if you noticed it. Did you happen to notice and see that
No,
whenever
I'm
Boxer?
actually go ahead and keep explaining it. I feel like I'm kind of remembering.
Okay, well, they did it really quickly because they did it in passing because they were cutting back and forth in between the scene, in between Zoe with the cocaine in the boat and
Oh,
then
right.
them walking in the crowd. And what she says, like that man is responsible pretty much for
Mm.
Andreo being in a wheelchair. Nobody gets in an accident like that. That's
Right.
what he was saying. And due to
Oh,
what
wow.
Audio did to Cristobal, that's why that's why Boxer was thinking Pepe had something to do with it. And I believe he didn't have
Oh.
to do with it. But just seeing that rage on her face, that lets me know I saw a little bit of the Conchita in her coming out. So
Oh, okay, interesting. I'm glad you brought that up then.
yeah, I'm interested to see where it's gonna go in future episodes. Um,
Yes.
but the last big bomb of the night is that Zoe and Boxer's bonding experience. So to give a little light to that, so whenever Zoe is, whenever in the first scene, the opening shot, we see Zoe pulling a boat with a bodies and cocaine in it. And Zoe gets stuck going up this hill and she can't go any further. So what does she do? She calls the one consistent person on the whole island of Ibiza, Boxer. And Boxer comes as usual and saves the day. So what happened is that they pull, the boat away. They pull the bodies out of the boat and they go and bury the bodies in the forest. And then after, they bury them together, a bonding moment. And even Boxer, still trying to be sweet and suave while they're inside of the grave, while the body's on the side. I can't believe he tried to get it in right there.
Yeah, that was
I
too
mean,
soon.
the biggest concern for me at that time would be burying the bodies and getting the hell up out of there before that random passerby goes by in the Spanish countryside. But I guess
Right.
he wasn't thinking about that. But so after they bury the bodies, or as they're burying the bodies, a magical rain, that old saying, the rain in Spain lands mainly on the plain, but it happened there and they bury the bodies. But then they go, and I even wrote this with question marks down in my notes. They have sex on top of the grave. That's the wildest thing I've seen on television. I really one of the wildest things I've seen on television. Like this is I don't know. I don't know how one could be turned on for any of that. Like I don't know what that would be on your mind like at that moment. You still have the boat with the cocaine on it, not too far away. Why would you be thinking about that? But whatever, I no judgment here. I mean, what it's different strokes for different folks, but damn, on top of the grave, that blew me away. I remember screaming like, no, on top of the grave, really? And it's like wet too. You guys can like sink down into the grave while you're
Oh
doing your
my
thing there.
God.
But what did you think about all of that, Ali?
Um, okay, first of all, I was very glad Boxer showed up. I thought it was funny how Boxer like shows up and he made a joke. I don't remember what he said, but he made some joke and she kind of just like rolled her eyes and then he realized what she had just called him there for and
Hmm.
he's just like, are you serious? I thought that was funny and it just goes to show again like he really cares about her, especially yeah, because not only does he help her discard these bodies, but then they go and have sex. And I totally agree with you, like on top of the grave. Like, could they not just like, like go somewhere else? Like they're in the middle of the woods or somewhere, like just, a couple feet over, just anything a little bit not so, I don't know. It was uncomfortable. But I was thinking the same thing. I was like, how could they be doing this? This doesn't make sense. Like I know that they like each other, but it's raining, somebody could still come by. I was thinking about the drugs still in the car. Um, but I think Zoe, um, she's like finding herself and she's this new person. And we're seeing so much of Axel's like messed up side that
Mhm.
almost when something crazy happens in Axel's life, he kind of just accelerates it or does something else even crazier. It's like this adrenaline from just doing like the worst possible thing. I don't know. So I kind of was like, okay, maybe she's just really touched into her like Axel side, or I was like, maybe she's just really stressed out about what just happened and she is just trying to completely forget about it and just get out of that moment. And so I guess she thought having sex with Boxer would maybe take her head out of that. I don't know, but it was a crazy scene. That's all I do know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And honestly, I'm telling you that for me, this is one of the craziest things I've seen in television.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some wild things with like, different plot twists and storylines and things that are like complete suspensions of belief, disbelief. And yeah, the burying the body and then having sex on top of the bodies. That's
But
some
they still somehow pulled it off and they made it look like just a normal, beautiful, like sex scene. Like they just tried to play it off like it was so fine and like that we were gonna all be just like so for it, but which we were. But it was still just like, are they really doing this right now?
I was looking around, I was like, well, maybe they went a couple of feet away. That's why I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, they didn't. You can
No,
see
they
them
didn't.
squaring with it. Like, man, that was some crazy.
I feel like that's gonna bring about some like karma or something. I don't know. I like
Yes,
mess with the spirits or something.
that's a really crazy moment, man. Sex on top of the okay. All right. So before we get into the predictions, what did you have for our semi special segment? And then also I had a little tidbit of information to add, to your special segment. Uh
Perfect.
you go first.
I just have just a little bit of fun fact type of segment for some more production, filming, kind of stuff. But Laura Haddock, the girl who plays our Zoe, I was reading an article that oh, I don't remember the publication. I should have written it down. But anyway, she was talking about what it was like filming in Ibiza and said it was basically the time of her life. She said, I fell in love with their way of life culturally. It's so cool and the people are lovely. And she said, I think that when people watch the show, that they're immediately going to go on a book a trip to Spain, which we've talked about this whole time. And if Corona wasn't happening right now, maybe we just might have. But she also said it's a stunning part of the world and it's become one of my favorite places in the world. And the creator, Alex Pena, also talked about how during filming, they would hire real Spanish DJs and people to come. So for all of those partying scenes, they really set it up in a way that felt real. And they had real DJs and they were drinking and having fun. So it just makes it all seem even more authentic than what it looks like. I don't know, because it looks so beautiful, you know, and then you're like, oh, wow, that it's somewhat real. Like it's not just a scene set up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So real DJs and also alcohol. I wonder if there were drugs there too. Some of those people.
I know, I was wondering that.
Realistic. It's realistically high. Okay, well, I didn't know that.
I'll have to scoop a little deeper next time and see if we can get some more info on that.
Yes. Next time. I want to hear some more about this, because if you're hearing that there were real DJs involved and like extras there and there was alcohol, I'm pretty sure there's some tea that coincides with some of those scenes. So yes, Allie, if you find anything, please let me know.
I will.
So the thing I wanted to piggyback about your special segment about was Spanish law. Okay, so in these episodes, what Zoe is stuck in Spain. She's stuck in Spain because they took her passports for the whole police chase, and the cops are saying that she faces a potential sentence of 2 to 5 years. So in Spain, I don't know if you knew this or not, or if the people listening or watching knew this, but in Spain, if you are convicted of a crime and the sentence is 24 months and under, if you are a first-time offender, Spanish law says that a judge can make your sentence a suspended sentence. Actually, yeah, a suspended sentence. And so you basically probation. So you'll just do probation. The reason why I know this is because two of the greatest soccer players of all time, Cristiano Ronaldo and Leo Messi, both got charged and convicted of tax evasion in Spain. And they were sentenced to, one of them was sentenced to 24 months, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Lionel Messi was sentenced to 21 months. And like I said, due to Spanish law, if you are a first-time offender and your sentence is 24 months and under, the judge can choose to suspend your sentence. So
interesting.
So if Zoe were to get 24 months in jail for what she did, it could be the judge could suspend the sentence and allow her to go back home, or he would suspend her sentence and give her probation, and she has to stay in the country. So she could either go home with her husband or stay here and be with Boxer. That's crazy, right?
That's so interesting. I wonder if we'll see that kind of play out, because that'll be cool then, because you kind of predicted that. I could see that happening. Now I can sleep tonight knowing that she probably won't go to jail.
Yeah, that's if she gets 24 months and under. If she has to go a month over 24, she has to stay and she has to do the sentence. But if it's 24 and under, yeah, she can get a suspended sentence. And I think she should, if Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi can get suspended sentences and go free, then I think a common person should be able to do it too.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I think we should have it equal all across the board. It shouldn't be different just because you're rich or not. But yeah, I looked that up because I was thinking about that when they said 24 months, because I remember whenever they went to jail, well, they didn't go to jail whenever they were convicted. But yeah, that was my
good to know.
Yeah,
that's really good to know.
If you ever go to jail in Spain, Allie, just remember, try to get it pushed to 24 and under, because if
Don't
you
do anything too terribly bad, just enough to get 24 months.
yeah, and then you can get either probation in the country or you can get out of country probation. Who knows?
Oh,
But
man.
yeah, that was my little moment there. So I wanted to go ahead and get into before we go, I wanted to get into predictions for future episodes. What do you have for us, Allie?
Okay, so
And
let's
now,
see.
your
Let's see.
AfterBuzz
I
TV
think
predictions.
I think we're going to see more of Zoe and Boxer and more of the tension with Mike. That's where my head keeps going. I feel like Zoe's not going to be able to move forward and figure out the whole Axel thing and like totally give herself to that until she kind of figures out what's going on with herself. Especially now that I don't think she's in much of a hurry to solve Axel's case now that she knows what kind of person he was. I think she definitely still cares and she wants to, but I don't think she's as like, worried about it at the moment. I think she's probably coming to terms with the type of person her brother really was, and I'm sure that's hard for her. So I want to see her really deal with the Mike and Boxer thing. I don't want her to feel like she has to pick a side, but I do want to see her just be honest with the both of him. And like we both know, especially after that sex on the grave scene, she obviously really likes Boxer. And I want her to kind of trust that instinct inside of her. So I want to see her just go all the way with him and kind of just see how that goes, even though she may get into some trouble, but she's already there. She's done it.
But no more sex on the grave, right? No, no.
Right.
Okay. Well, for my predictions, I have only two, and one of them is radical. I know it's radical, and I don't care. So the first one is that Kika will take revenge on Pepe somehow. I think that's gonna come back, because just seeing, number one, Boxer giving her the pep talk to keep her around and tell her to face the drama that she has, face it when times get tough, and then seeing that quiet rage she has as she's walking down the streets in the parade, less than 8 feet from the man who possibly paralyzed her father. I think she's going to get some get back, as they say.
Wow.
I think that's coming. Honestly, the look of rage was too much for me. I'm like, okay, there's something going to happen. Either Pepe got to go or Cristobal has to go. One of
And
those two has to go.
you keep saying that she's got some Conchita inside of her. So okay, we'll see. We'll see if that happens.
I hope it does. I want to see the
s-
fire and the claws come out. And the next prediction, and my final one, is pregnancy. Zoe.
Oh.
There's pregnancy.
Let's go. Okay.
I think that's gonna happen. Those two they've been getting it on for days, and she's been hanging out with him and getting it on a couple times, and then this time on the grave. And I'm pretty sure, and this is probably me having too much freaking logic for the episode and just for TV in general, but I'm pretty sure that there was no protection in that moment. I'm pretty sure that was one of those passionate moments, that you have in soaps and novellas. And like, okay, wait a minute, what about protection?
Right.
No protection when those people were sleeping on that grave. And
oh my gosh. If they conceived a child from that moment, oh my God. I can't.
what would they name a child conceived on top of a grave?
Oh my goodness. I don't know, but then we're gonna see more of the priest involved because they're gonna be going to him. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh
Well,
my God.
those are my predictions. Honestly,
Those
I
are
don't
good.
maybe I think I'm being a little bit too radical, but whatever. Let's see
No.
what happens. After Zoe pulling a damn boat with cocaine and bodies in it, anything's possible. Anything is possible. So this is all of our time. But I want to thank everybody who's watching and who will be watching or listening to this. Thank you for supporting us. You make us the ESPN of TV talk, and we really thank you for coming in, week out, episode in, episode out, and thank you for being a fan of our show and also White Lines. So, Allie, where can everybody find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Alexandra James.
Okay, and you can find me on Instagram at Rob Stilo. That's ROBSTEELO. And if you have any predictions, any random facts, any tea you want to give me, please invade my DMs. And hopefully, if something that we can throw on the show here, if you have something good for us, okay? Once again, thanks for watching, and we are out. Buzz you later.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.